How can we identify someone who has special needs?
Special needs is a wide topic that it encompasses different types of disabilities. So if we look into Nigerian population right now, the estimate will be like 30 million.
There's an ongoing conversation that implicates vaccines in children, with autism. What's your take on that? How has vaccine impacted the lives of children?
Vaccine may trigger an underlying problem.
We live in a country where everything is all about, I'm going to meet my pastor. A child have headache, I'm going to meet my pastor. A child is not talking properly, I'm taking a child to the pastor.
Those are just misconceptions and myths and just hearsay from people. Parents need to know that I am responsible for my child.
In Africa, where I'm from, obviously I'm Nigerian, people think that kids with special needs are cursed from God. Some people will say, because this woman has this child, so she's been cursed from God. Or other persons will say, the mother has committed some sort of infidelity.
It has absolutely nothing to do with the mother, nor even the father.
There is a neurochip being invented by Elon Musk. So we have a large population of religious folks, and people who also would say that this is a sign of the beast, what is popularly known as the 666. Now, do you advise people to avail themselves of these technologies, especially in this case of Hey everyone, welcome back to Common Sense Podcast on SORTEDTV. I'm Israel, and today's episode is one that hits close to home for so many families. We are talking about the world of special needs in children, and that includes ADHD, autism, Down syndrome, and so many of them like that. And how we can better understand, provide support, and love the amazing kids and parents walking this journey.
Yes. Welcome, my brother. And yes, we are not just scratching the surface. We've got an amazing guest in the studio today, in the name of Mrs. Laura, a leading expert in child development and mental health. And whether you are a parent, a teacher, or you're just someone who wants to be more compassionate in this world today, this conversation is for you. So sit down and enjoy.
And we're diving deep into the heart of the matter. Joining us in the studio is our guest, Mrs. Laura. She's a renowned expert in child development and mental health. Whether you're a parent, an educator, or simply someone striving to lead with empathy, this conversation is one you won't want to miss. And welcome again to the Common Sense Podcast.
So everyone, grab a coffee, grab a tissue if you need it. Grab a tissue because we are getting real, breaking all the myths with Mrs. Laura. We're going to be shedding light on issues, talking about ADHD and Down syndrome kids.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I see that you're on a mission. And I've known you for quite a while, perhaps 10 years. And yesterday I was also in an event where you were one of the panelists. And you talked about some of the issues even that we are going to be talking about today, But we'd like to know you. We'd like to know you. We'd like our audience our listeners to know you. So who are you?
My name is Laura Alabi. I'm a wife of 25 years. I'm a mother. I'm an educator, a sister, a daughter, and basically I work with children with special needs. And I've been in that journey for close to 20 years now, both in Nigeria and also outside Nigeria in Ireland. So I've been able to work with children with autism, Down syndrome, just a wide range of children with learning difficulties.
Okay. In this era, in Nigeria, we have a lot of people. There's this popular word called Japa. A lot of people are traveling out of the country, living in the country, especially specialized people like you, because they think that it's better out there. And you are moving in the opposite direction of the Nigerian people. While they're immigrating out of the country, you come in. So tell us why you're here.
So like I said, you mentioned that it's a mission, it's a calling upon my life. I remember a few years ago, when I say few years ago, I meant 20 years ago, I started working with children with special needs, and I didn't know that I had the passion as at that time, but I just knew that people were telling me that you're so good with children. And when I work with a child with special needs, I'd see results. Of course, following the strategies and everything. So, and I felt that why should I acquire that amount of experience, of knowledge, of skills, and attitude to work with it and not bring it down home to where I know as home in Nigeria. And that's why I'm here.
Good. What would you say drew you into working with kids with special needs? And where would you say this whole journey started for you? Are you one of the people who would say, well, I couldn't get a job in the field where I studied before, and what's available to me now? What's available to me working with kids with special needs? Like I asked, where would you say it all started and what led to it?
Thank you. That's a good question. And it's very personal to me also. So when I married 25 years ago, I wanted to be that mother that will be home when the children are home. So I was looking for a job where when my children are in school, I'm also out at work. And when my children are back home, I want to be there for them. So, of course, the best option for me was to work in a school setting. And as at that time, I didn't even know I wanted to work in a school because my first degree at that time was chemistry. I had a degree in chemistry, and then we relocated to Ireland. And I was also in the Sunday school setting, because my boy, my first child, was always making noise in the church, and I will pull him out into the children department. Before long, I became a children's teacher, Sunday school teacher. And the journey just evolved one after the other. I became the head of the department. People were always telling me, Mrs. Laura, you're so good with children. What is it? So when people bring their children to church, everybody will ask, is Mrs. Laura on duty? When I'm on duty, you see the whole place flooded with children. And then I applied into a school. This is in Ireland, and they took me in as a classroom assistant. Before long, I moved into the special needs unit, and the passion just evolved from there. And that's where the story began. So I worked there, I had my results, and I stayed in there, and I'm still there, and I will be there forever.
Would you say the fact that you were outside the country in Ireland shaping your opinion and your view about kids with special need and kids with Down syndrome and ADHD, would you say that's shaping your opinion about them? And is there a particular case is there a particular case that moved you that you would want to tell us about?
Yes, I would say the way special needs is embraced in Ireland, particularly in Ireland, will make you to love what you're doing. So the school I worked in for a stretch of 10 years, and I grew in the school, working as a special needs assistant / teacher some of the times, because so at that time, so the school I worked in then, I worked as a special needs assistant / special needs teacher. So there was a particular incident that actually struck me. It wasn't just on a day. It wasn't a day occurrence. It was just, it evolved over time. So this boy will come to school, and he's an African child. He's a Nigerian boy. He will come to school, and he had autism. It was really high on him. It was low functioning. So when he comes into the school, when he's in the school, he's throwing up, he's throwing tantrums around, very hyperactive. And so everybody will just be like, oh, that's all he can do for the day. Just leave him, let him just have his day in this snoozling. So they will just tell you that we should just let him be. And I felt that there is so much this child can give. There's so much that this child can do. We shouldn't just leave him aside and feel that because he's having a not so good day, he's not going to learn. So the burden was on me. So I had this friend and a mentor. So whenever I visit her, we will talk about other things, and then my topic will go back to this particular child. Then we'll talk about other things, and still in the same day, I will still be talking about this child. She now said, Laura, don't you think that there's a burden on you about children with special needs? You don't ever stop talking about children with special needs. And I also know that my daughter will say, Mommy, I think you like children with special needs more than you do, because their pictures, was on my fridge. My conversation with everybody is always evolving around children with special needs. People started telling me this is more than just passion. This is a calling. And my principal, as at that time too, she got to see the way I was working, and there were success stories. They will give me a particular child, the child that will not want to work with anybody. That child will relate better with me. The child will do well. She will settle in the school. And then she started telling me, Laura, why don't you go and go into this study? Why don't you study on this? So she more or less channeled me into what courses, degrees, and everything to do. And I was doing that as I was also working with the children.
You're saying that there is a role of mentorship even when you have passion on something.
Most definitely.
So what do you have to say about mentoring? How has it helped you grow in this field of special needs?
So it's not. So it wasn't just the passion and the attitude that I had towards it. Yeah. The knowledge I acquired because of our mentorship really helped me. It made me to know that, okay, I had to go for a second degree in education. Right. And then I had my master's in special needs and also my diploma in special needs. And, she just kept on. She never just left me at whatever I felt like, okay, now I have achieved this. She would say, no, there's still a step higher. And all the knowledge I acquired helped me in working better and giving better strategies to children I work with.
Okay, now going forward, we've been talking about special needs. Can you tell us what is special needs? Or how can we identify someone who has special needs? And because, there are lots of, thoughts and opinion about this issue. special needs. So going by your experience, by your knowledge, and by what you've done so far, can you just break down this thing called special needs?
Before you go,
generalized term.
Before you jump on that topic,
okay.
One thing I want our viewers to learn today is that we are not just talking to somebody. From what I can get from what you've just said, we're not just talking to somebody. Mrs. Laura is not someone who has just undergone a training in kids with special needs. We are talking to an authority. So it will be worth your while to sit down and listen. You pick up one or two things from what she's going to be teaching us today. And I want to appreciate you for making the time to come and join this podcast. And my question, just to buttress what my brother Israel said, is why do you think we need to have conversation around ADHD and autism and Down syndrome? Why would you think that conversation needs to be had? Why do you think that conversation is important for us to start having it now? So while you respond to the question my co-host just asked with Israel, also respond to this other one. Why do you think we need to start having that conversation? Right? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me pick from Israel. So special needs is a wide topic that it encompasses different types of disabilities. So you have children who have visual impairments, physical impairments, intellectual difficulties. You have so many hidden disabilities that people will tend to overlook. You have hearing impairment, so it covers a whole lot of disabilities. And so going to your brother's question, why talk about autism? Why should we talk about ADHD autism? It's very important that we talk about that because it's not a disability that is physical, that you can see on a person. It's kind of hidden. It's only when you start seeing behavioral manifestations, when the person is not following the normal, the societal norms. And then people are now raising consciousness around it. Why is this child not sitting down? Why is this child running up and down? Why is this child not talking at a particular time? Why is it not making conversation? Why is it not giving me eye contact? And so on and so forth. So why should we talk about autism? Why should we talk about ADHD? It's all around us. And that's why we're here.
People think that kids with special needs are cursed from God. And people think that kids in Africa, where I'm from, obviously I'm Nigerian, and I'm Benin to be precise. I'm very proud of where I'm from. People think that kids with special needs are cursed from God, and for some reason, some people will think it's because the mother, she has committed some sort of, I don't want to use the word, there's an infidelity in the marriage. Let's use that. Some people will say, because this woman has this child, so she's been cursed from God, or there's a witch doctor somewhere that has cursed them, or some other persons will say, the mother has committed some sort of infidelity. That's the reason why that child from her is experiencing a lateness in speech, or the child can't work, or the child is not following the natural growth rate of what his or her peers are actually following. So what's your take on that?
Thank you. Those are just misconceptions and myths and just hearsay from people, because a lot of these disabilities that we are talking about today, they are neurological developmental disorders. So, and some of them are also genetics, they are based on the genes. And some of them are environmental factors that could have led to it. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the woman's having extramarital relationship or anything of such. Those are absolutely misconceptions.
So you mentioned that the reason we have to begin to have this conversation, on special needs, is because we find it around everywhere now. So I want to ask, what is going by your experience, what is the most prominent or the most common form of special needs you have attended to, or that is prevalent in our society today? And if you can go by the numbers in terms of statistics, boys and girls, and all that, so we can understand. Because first of all, we need to understand what the root tendencies of the problem, and before we can address the problem itself. So, what is the ratio of the variant of the special needs we have today?
All right. So it's more prevalent in boys than in girls when we talk about autism, ADHD, because generally boys are known to be boisterous and you see them running up and down. So people tend to neglect it until a later time when a child is meant to settle in and follow the normal routines. Going by statistics, we'll say that based on the National Bureau of Statistics, we have like 6% of children with difficult disabilities. According to WHO, we have up to like 15% of the population. So if we look into Nigerian population right now, the estimate will be like 30 million. And the National Commission of Disabilities, of Persons with Disabilities, in 2023, the estimate was like 35.1 million in Nigeria for persons with disabilities. So it's so prevalent now in our society and we can't overlook it.
So which of these, because when you say special needs, there's so many variants.
Yes.
So which of these variants is more common in our society?
I would say that that's a huge question because it has to go through the source and also the methodology that was used. The one that we work with, it will be the intellectual disabilities.
Thank you, Ms. Laura, for joining us again.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk ADHD. Growing up in Nigeria, I had this young man in the same street with me. He had problem with his speech. So by then, we were not really interacting with him that much. So he was always playing on his own. One of the reasons was he couldn't really communicate with us when we are speaking to him. So this is me talking about the 90s, right? Because I'm a 90s baby. So he couldn't really speak to us. So even when we are playing football, we don't choose him. So he come to the field for where we play football, but we don't really choose him. But he was just one of a kind on our street. But we know him, we know his brothers. His brothers were good and they speak nicely, they interact well. And he has this mood. Sometimes it can be very hyper, some days it can be very mellow. So with that, we tend to stay clear away from him. Even for some reason, some of the mothers they feel the child was cursed. So not until I came over to the UK, I started understanding the issue of kids with special needs. So I started looking into it, I started reading about it. I said, oh, wow. Now, I don't want to call his name because I know he could be watching this channel and his family could be watching. So I want to keep that anonymous. Now, for you as someone who was really dived into dating kids with special needs, what are some of the myths that you've really heard about it? And also, I'm asking this because some parents will say, oh, give this child a time, the child will grow out of it. So what are the myths that you have heard? Also, parents are confusing kids with autism and behavioral issues. How do you explain this to them properly? And now I have a follow-up question with that. How do you respond to people that says this child will grow out of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a big question there. First of all, you said the child has ADHD. How do you know? It might not be ADHD for all you care. Because some of the things that you mentioned is that it was playing parallel to all of you. And that's a sign of autism. So children with autism, they will tend to not play along with their peers. They will play alongside, on their own. They will play parallel. Also, the fact that you saw him awkward as odd,
Yes.
His play was odd, it was awkward, and nobody wants to interact with him. And some of the time, he will also have, he was also hyperactive. So, yeah, so a child with autism can actually have autism alongside with ADHD and with some other difficulties because most of the time they are comorbidity. So it's not just one. When you have autism, you have a child may have problem with speech and communication. A child may have sensory difficulties, sensory disorder. The child can have learning difficulties. So many things will come along with that just particular difficulty. And the second part of your question was that, is it curable? They're not curable. And the simple way I tell my teachers is that look at your face. Is it possible for you to adopt my own face? No. But they can be supported. That is the reason why we are here, to support, to give the intervention, to come up with strategies that will make these children to thrive and become the best of themselves, to optimize their life as much as possible. So support is always there, both academically, behaviorally, and otherwise, even from medical aspects. So, and that's what's one thing we want people to avail of, and creating their awareness as much as possible.
This young man, I just picked up his case now. On his good days, he is an amazing person who can share anything with you, even his food, even his toy, his sweeties. He can share with you on his good days. Or he does have some relapse and bad days. So on those bad days, he is very to the extreme. So now I need to bring in this question because we're live on stream. So someone just asked a question. Yes. How do you address a question of a parent said he will grow out of it? And the follow-up question was, is Down syndrome always severe, or are there levels to the support needed?
Okay. So let me take it from the last question. Down syndrome is just like every other difficulty that is a spectrum. So it cuts across mild to moderate to profound and to severe. So a child with Down syndrome, some of them are able to do mostly what a neurotypical child can do. And some of them can have the difficulty so much so that they won't be able to thrive as much as other people, So it's a spectrum. Every one of these disabilities become like that, from mild to severe. So you just have to know where that particular child falls. The second question again, what was it? Can they outgrow it? People don't outgrow this kind of disabilities, but they can have coping skills and managing ways to manage the difficulties. And a typical example will be that you said you hailed from the 90s. I won't let you guess when I was born, so I won't even give you that. So, however, they can give the support that they will avail of can make them it can look as if it was cured. When a child has his program, his routine clearly laid out, So there is nothing that flusters the child. There is no reason for the child to throw tantrum. The child can predict their day. Everything that the child will need is all organized and everything. And I'm not saying that that's the only thing that they show us when their routine is altered. But at the same time, it's good for people to know that it's not curable. Just like a defect in just like your facial look, I can't start looking like you tomorrow. Do you understand? That's how I want people to see that it's not curable, but they can be highly and hugely supported.
So what kind of support do you provide or can be provided to this kind of people with disabilities?
Good.
And then secondly, I want to ask a second question. I was speaking to someone and I was told that a parent had a scare for their child, one of their child. They thought he had one of these disabilities, Down syndrome. And they took the child to the hospital and to have an assessment. And then the doctor said, oh, there was nothing. So, the assessment came out positive. So the parents said that the child was behaving in an abnormal way, other from the way he used to behave.
Manifest.
So they became worried about his behavior and decided to them, this child is manifesting some certain trait of maybe autism or Down syndrome. Mm-hmm. And he was taken to the hospital for assessment. Now, I don't know who the specialist is, but the assessment came back positive. The child was there was nothing of such. Okay. Now, I want to know, how do we differentiate a child who has some of these certain behaviors? When you say, an autistic child, a Down syndrome, patient behave in a certain way, how do we separate that kind of person from a child who is naturally stubborn, who likes going the opposite way, basically? How do you differentiate that?
So there are behavioral manifestation that is different from just a child being boisterous, what you termed as being stubborn. Yeah. Other than that, so a child could have speech impediment, or the child does not communicate, the child has learning difficulties. So it's not just the fact that the child is running up and down, is hyperactive, that will make you to label this child as having special needs. So it's and so there are different types of behavioral manifestation that you are expecting before a child can be diagnosed or that he has a particular kind of disabilities. So, and then you also know that the child has to be thoroughly assessed. So it's during assessment that you will know that, okay, this is what you are working with.
Okay. Since you said this cannot be treated, yeah?
They are not curable.
They're not curable. Yes. But what's the difference between something being treated or not cannot be treated and something not curable?
So treated means you have the right support, you have the right intervention, you have the right therapies for the child. Okay. That's a form of treatment. Okay. But curable means, I once had autism, now I do not have it ever again. Yes, you do have it, but you now have managing skills, coping strategies that you have adopted. Okay,
I want to ask you a question. Stuttering, when someone stutters,
yes.
Is that a form of, is that a special needs case? Is that a form of disability?
Yes, it's a speech impediment where it could be that the person is anxious when the person wants to talk. It could also be genetic. That's, it could be passed from that child, from maybe parents to that particular child. And it could also be different things, maybe anxiety, when the person, social anxiety can cause it. And there may be tons and so many other things that could lead to stuttering. However, like you will want to hear from me, can it also be supported or treated? Yes, you'll be at rest, you're not too agitated, you are calm, and then maybe you rehearse whatever you want to say from your mind, and then you now talk and you're confident about yourself. And when people are also not making a fuss over it, they are not making you to feel conscious about it and saying negative things. Before you know it, the child is able to express themselves. As long as a person is able to express themselves, they are able to communicate. Work is done.
So you're saying invariably that it can be outgrown, stutter. Because I used to stutter. You maybe from time to time you might figure that out, but I think I haven't grown it because my dad too. My dad gave a story of when he was in primary school, he studied a lot, and he was bullied as a result of that. People bullied him because of his speech problem, and there was a time he became really fed up with the bullying, and he had a fight in class with someone who was said to be the toughest guy in class, and that was the day he began to get respect. But over the years, my dad doesn't stutter again as he used to. So is that a form of outgrowing that and a kind of speech impediment?
I will say that even for you, you have managed it to a large extent. You can clearly communicate and articulate your conversation in such a way that is audible. But because I work in that field, I'm able to pick it. Okay. I knew right from inception, and some of the time when you're talking, I see that, yes, you had one or two struggles, but it's not anything so significant. Yeah. So I would say maybe he was able to beat down the big bully.
Yeah.
He felt confident around himself. He felt like he's a victor, he's victorious. Yeah. And a lot of people, maybe his peers, they hailed him, they made him to feel like, yes, you are now our champion. Maybe those kind of events could have added to the fact that he's confident and he's able to approach things differently. And I will say most of the time it's due to anxiety. Yeah. So if it's not a particular deformity, or if it's something that is not a profound one. Okay. So sometimes it's just social anxiety.
Okay, going by my dad's own experience as well, having been bullied because of his disability and speech, and he had to fight for himself. What's the government policy today, or is there any policy by the government that protects children with disabilities from being stigmatized or from being bullied in school, especially?
Yes, I'll say both national, both in Nigeria and every other countries out there. There's huge support from the government, creating the awareness and the inclusion setting now that we have in the school is making people to know that they are absorbed into the system.
Okay.
And there are many policies that embraces the fact that people with disabilities and special needs are not to be labeled, are not to be ostracized, are not to be looked at as though they are different. They have a different way of they have a different outlook to life. But that doesn't mean that people should just label them as people who cannot mount out into anything else. So yeah, there are many policies around that.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Laura. I'm going to bring you back to breaking the myths, because I think we need to really educate our parents, most especially those living back in Nigeria, on some of their beliefs, some of their age, the long beliefs that they've probably picked up from their parents, and they still believe it today. And that beliefs of a child will grow out of it. The other one of it was because the mother had issue with infidelity. That's why the child probably can't speak well. The child is behaving funny, or the issue of probably a witch daughter must have cursed the mother. That's the reason why the child is not growing at a natural progressive rate. And the myth about your mother did not drink water from that pot. That's the reason why the child is having a slur in the speech. So I want you to debunk those myths. And also, I want this to help us snowball into the parents' corner. Yes, I want to be asking questions on parents. I want to snowball into another area which I talk about, which is the parents' corner. Now, with one of the myths I will say, I think you should, now I've lost my question of thought. I think what you should help us do here is, some of those myths you must have heard before, because I grew up with an auntie that had the child she couldn't walk. Right from the day she was born, we thought she was going to grow out of it. She was just seated on the floor, she was just laid down on the floor, and she couldn't walk. Up to the time where she was supposed to speak, she couldn't speak. So her mates were now walking, her mates were talking, some of her mates could feed themselves. Now, this is a very touchy subject for me because the person I'm talking about is an auntie of mine. And I didn't really know what the daughter was struggling with. I can tell you I know it now. Or what happened then is not something I will be proud of to say. But I'm going to say it anyway because I want people to learn from this. It's when things like that happen in Africa, in Nigeria, and a child is finding it difficult to probably work or talk, you see the women in the community will gather together and they will bring the mother and the child in the quest for them, thinking they're going to support the mother. They will take the child away from the mother and sometimes the men will go as far as unaliving the child. Does that can you just imagine that? That is some sort of belief that some of our parents holds. Yes, and I'm saying this because it happened in around me. I saw this happen. This is very close to home for me. So this topic, talking about it just awakening some of the few things which I've seen growing up and which I've heard about. This child, a very beautiful girl, by the way, she was born just like every other child. She went through the process of obviously taking breast milk. It was time for her to start talking or start making sounds. She wasn't making any sort of sound. It was time for her to start. She can see, she can respond, but for some funny reason, she wasn't following up. That was the problem we were having. She was not following up. So, but she was so dependent on the mother. So up to the point where the women in the community start feeling that, oh, this child is becoming a burden to the mother. They didn't see it as this child is a child that's a special needs child that needs to be supported 24 hours of the day. Like in the Western world, the government will step in. The government will either bring in a caregiver to that child, where that child will be supported 24 hours of the day. But in the country where we are from, in Nigeria, that will not happen. It's the mother and her support system, her sisters and her siblings that will help to raise that child. Now, in the case of the one I was telling you, what happened was they brought the women in the community brought the mother in. She was so reluctant to let the child go. She held up to the child. Obviously, she's a mom, and it was quite painful for her to see, because she knew what the women were going to do. She knew what they were coming for, because they must have spoken to her 1 or 2 or 3 times about it, and to try and intervene. Or they think they're trying to help her, but they were going to take something that means a lot to her away from her, and that was what happened. So they brought her in one day. They had a gathering. They just brought her in one day and took the child away from her. And they took the child far away, and the child never came back. Now, what happened? I don't know, but we knew the child never came back. So please, as someone who was who has done extensive studies on child with special needs and ADHD and child with disability. How can you help my people? How can you help them? How can you speak to them? And how can you also speak to the government to say, hey, you need to step in on issues like this? And how can these parents get help if they are dealing with such a situation? How can they get help?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that even boils down to my question on what is the government's support? What's the government policy?
Yeah.
In terms of providing support for these people.
That's a very touching story, and it breaks my heart to know that a mother went through that. However, it's no doing of any mother to give birth to children who comes out with one form of disability or the other. We all are parents, and I'm a mother too, mother of 3 children. I strongly know that every mother prays when they are pregnant that the child will be, will grow well, will be, so the child will grow well, the child will flourish, the child will be okay by the time the child is given birth to. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the mother, nor even the father. Of course, we know that some of them are genetic, so some of them are just neurological disorder. So the advocacy just...
It has nothing to do with a witch doctor, right?
What?
It has nothing to do with a witch doctor.
It has nothing to do with witch doctors. It has nothing to do with the fact that the mother has gone into one, has defiled her marriage or anything. It's not that mother's doing. This mother needs all the support. And taking the child away from that mother, there is a bond between mother and their infant, their child, that should never be broken. And if ever you even want to support, not in that light, not in that way, not to separate them, give them the support they need in the home, give them everything, take them for medicals, make sure that the child is thoroughly assessed. Let people know, I'm letting people know that no, this particular parents out there, it's no fault of yours that you have a child who has one disability or the other. You really can't see your womb when you are pregnant. The best you can do is to eat well, sleep at the right time, make sure that you have good nutrition, make sure that you go for antenatal, and make sure that you do your exercise. Just stay within what you're meant to do during pregnancy. Take your medication if there is a need for that. But, at the end of the day, we just trust God that the child will fully grow in the womb and come out alive and be a good-looking child and healthy child. That's what all mothers pray for. So it's pathetic that people look at things in that way. And the misconception, they are not only, there are so many of them. There are so many people think that the child is even an obanje, or they've used the child for rituals. There is something the parents have dabbled into, that the parents may be diabolical. They have taken something out of the child. That's why the parents are flourishing and prospering. So many myths out there. Some people, I will not be in denial of that. Some people do that, but a vast majority of them do not. So because we have, at the end of the day, some people in this part of the world, they do that. But scientifically, we can say that it's not something that a parent did to their child.
Yeah, I think that brings me to this question. Can this be diagnosed from pregnancy before a child is born?
Yes, some disabilities can be diagnosed, like Down syndrome, Fragile X syndrome, and some of them that can be detected in the womb, but not all. So a child with autism, ADHD, their behavioral manifestation when the child is born, you begin to see that the child is fixated on an object. The child is not having speech, not communicating. So yes, while some can be detected in the womb, others may not be. So the ones that can be detected are just the ones that you know.
And there's something that can be done when the child has been diagnosed to be having one form of disability in the womb.
Well, let's take, for instance, Down syndrome. That means there is an extra X chromosome. You just know that the child that you're going to give birth will come out as having Down syndrome. There is absolutely nothing that can be done. There is no treatment.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When does life begin? I know, yes, we live in a very religious country. I have always, I'm a very strong conservative, right? And that is also a story that's close home to me as well. There's someone who I knew who was pregnant at the time. And I've always held the belief that abortion is a no-go. It's killing of a baby, it's killing of a child, but someone who was really close to me was pregnant and went for this usual scanning, and the child was diagnosed to have some certain form of disability, and it was advised that she flush out the baby. So they didn't use the word kill, to flush out the baby, and I was asked, my opinion was asked, and I said, "Oh yes, go ahead and do it," despite my long-held belief and conviction that no matter what, abortion isn't the best way to go. And but I said, yeah, that should happen. Now coming to this conversation, what's your own opinion? What's your own take? If someone is being if a child, who is in the womb has been diagnosed with this kind of disability, knowing the kind of situation they go through, sometimes, unfortunately, their lives, they become a burden. Is it better to take the life of a child?
This is the question is subjective.
Yeah.
And, this question is a very delicate one. If it's medically, if the parents are medically informed that this is the situation, it all depends on the parents. It's contextual in nature. So it's not, I'm against abortion too. But like you said, if it was from a medical practitioner that already shared with them what the possibilities will be. So I will not say that a child with intellectual difficulty or a child with disability should be aborted, because the supports are there. We know of many renowned artists who had one form of disability or the other,
Yes.
and they became champions of this world.
Yes.
So if their own parents too had aborted them, would we have their likes in this day and time? No. And we still talk about many of them, like Albert Einstein and so many of them too, that had one disability or the other. So I'm totally against abortion, but I will also tilt to what the medical practitioner at the time informs the parents.
Okay. How do we advise men who say things like, if my wife gives birth to a child with special needs, I'm going to leave? Or how do we advise men? How do you educate them? Issues surrounding kids with special needs. There are some men who don't know how to handle such a very or navigate that sort of difficult situation. And they just think, oh, this has happened to me, or this is a child that has been born into his family, and this child has special needs. They will do nothing than just abandon the wife and the 2 kids or 3 kids. I've got a friend who, she's an amazing young woman. She's living with 2 boys with special needs. Who's really know this?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
She lives in the UK, and she's a Nigerian, and she's struggling with this situation. And once the first child was born, they found out that the child has got special needs. The guy was still there. Now, the second child was born, and the next thing was the guy just, once it was diagnosed, the guy just broke and left 2 children. Now, I'm sure there are some of my colleagues in Nigeria who are living with such situations, such arrangements. This is none of our fault. The man has just the same amount of, supposed to bring the same amount of commitment as the woman. Yeah, both of them gave birth to this child, but one person just decided to vote out of the arrangement, which is the man. Say, oh, because I don't want to be part of this. Maybe the child is cost is from you. So how do we advise men so they don't keep leaving these women when things like this happen? That's one. Now, the second question is, how do you also support men who have chosen to sit in and support their wife through this murky waters? How do you support?
You know that with everything that happens in life, there are stages.
Yeah.
The first stage is denial. That's sometimes when you even are confronted with one difficulty, you are in denial, you don't want to own up. So sometimes a lot of the men too are in that stage, and having the right support, the right network, and right knowledge and information to support them will go a long way for such men. Because, you know, we were told back many years back, men are not supposed to cry. Men cry. And some of them just don't know how to handle such difficult problems or such difficulty. Because a lot of people feel that men don't even have emotions, and they do. They have emotions. So it's the support network that will do this, and the information that is given, the men, the husbands, or the male partner, the partners, they have to work together, because it's a joint effort when you were together to make the baby. So it's also a joint effort, and it's a journey for the two of you. Sometimes I've seen families who have thrived in working with children with disability or children with special needs. And it's even created a stronger bond, which is firm, that nobody can even penetrate between them. It's all about understanding. It's all about how much support you will give to your wife that is already shattered, that how could I have carried this in the womb? The men don't carry the babies in their womb, but they are also going through that journey. So it's not in all cases that some men walk out on their wives or their partners. Some are hugely in support of whatever comes their way. But to the men out there who may find it difficult to embrace such situation, just know that it's not your wife's doing. Know that this is the time you have to show the support, not only to your wife and also to the child, and be there. Support in every form. Support them emotionally. Support them financially. Support in every area that this child will need you and your wife will need you. Because you never can tell what that child will turn out to be. It might be the hero of tomorrow that you have actually disowned now.
Absolutely. Now, I did say this is going to snowball into a subtopic where I said Parents Corner. Now, Parents Corner. Do we have a support system in Nigeria? Do we have like a forum? It's an enabling environment. Has the government in Nigeria created an enabling environment? Maybe through women affairs and child matters and stuff like that. Is there a parent corner that when a parent finds out, because one thing I can still tell you today is back home, the parents with kids that are struggling with special needs, they don't want to give it a name. They don't want to. They are just scared of hearing that fact the child has autism, the child is autistic, or the child has ADHD. They run away from that name. They don't want to talk about it. So is there a support system where these women or these parents can go to when they have issues like this? That's on one part. Two, I live in a country where when there are kids with special needs, the government takes your back, stand behind you solidly. And that's what the taxes that are being paid in countries like the UK, the US, Canada, Australia are used for. Because sometimes it can be very overwhelming. It can be very, very overwhelming. Some family have 2-3 cases in their home. And the burden most time is on the mothers. It's not as much on the fathers, it's on the mothers. Sometimes in the Western world, the government will bring in living carers that will come and start living with the mothers to help support these kids. And said, okay, so that the mother can go out with the father for date nights, for movies. And so that their siblings can have some breathing space as well. So now, if you can help throw more light on this, how is there one? My first question was: is there a support system? Is there like a forum for the parents in Nigeria? Because now we are talking with regards to Africa and the world, or we are narrowing it down to Nigeria now. Is there like a support forum that the government has created? Or is there anyone that you know that you are working with where parents can seek support? And also, how can the government help? The government of Nigeria, or President Tinubu, how can they help? Is it just all about spending money to buy convoys and marry 2 extra wives and build houses for girlfriends elsewhere in Banana Island and Lekki? Is that what the government is all about? Can they spend part of that money to give public tax breaks to these parents who have kids that are living with autism or special needs? Also, can there be some sort of incentives, maybe like stipends given to these parents monthly for them to be able to hire a caregiver so that these kids can be looked after on days when the parents want to go into maybe like a date night, so that these parents can still have some breathing space.
Let's say you like date night, so
online where you see our mothers are looking really pretty, but when you change those women into, when you look after them just with something as small as makeup and give them nice dress and wear and make their hair, they look absolutely flawless.
Yeah.
But we are used to talk about the issue these women are going through in their homes, the challenges they're going through in their homes. Issue like they've got 1 or 2 kids that have special needs. But because they don't want to come forward to diagnose it, or they don't want to give it a name, they are just dealing with it by themselves. So if you have people like you who are educating people already and say, listen, come forward, give it a name. And also, there is a support system. The government is doing something for you to help you. So please, the 2 questions. Is there a forum where they can cry to? That's 1. 2, what is the government doing to support this woman and this family?
Well, special needs is still at a very at the teething stage still in Nigeria. We're still scratching it on the surface.
Absolutely.
So there are some supports for persons with disabilities. You hear that, okay, there are some wheelchairs being given out there. And we have schools that, these are government schools, but are they rightly funded?
Well,
Do they have the right...
Are not wheelchair accessible.
Yeah, I know. So do they even have the...
It's even wheelchair accessible.
I know. So do they have the right resources? Do they even have the right personnel to work with them? Like I said, we are still at the teething stage and we are scratching it. We are far from being there. So and that's even for physical disabilities. A lot of educators in Nigeria are not even aware of intellectual disabilities. Talk less of talking about intellectual disabilities such as autism, and then the parents are having carers in homes in Nigeria. No. So where we have support is just parents or, that know each other, whose children have disability. They all come together and they form a forum and they help each other. They propagate their environment, their forum.
Okay. Anna is saying that one of the funniest thing with Nigeria is that the schools in Nigeria are not even well equipped taking special needs. How do people like you help the government help our people?
Yeah.
So one thing is we create. Okay.
Go on.
Should I go on? So one thing is just creating the awareness. Sensitization is huge for us to let them know. I remember in 2018, I had the privilege of training all the directors in the Department of Education and Skills in Abuja. So all of their inspectors were being trained by my organization, and I was the lead facilitator. But after that, I have not heard anything. And it was all totally new to them. A lot of them who will come into the school to supervise, to inspect the school, they're not even aware of what autism is. But it's not like that today. Today, a lot of them are beginning, they are aware. So, but you can see that those are just even the inspectors, and they are on top of that ladder. How much more teachers in government schools? They don't even know what to do. Where you have a large population of children in a classroom, you are dealing with 30, 60 children, 5 of them or 10 of them have autism. How are they going to cope? And they don't have the right personnel to work with them. So we're still far away from how things should be. And mostly in the government schools. A lot of the private schools, they are aware because people set up their school, and they know, a lot of them too now know that you cannot even have 5 children without having a child with one form of disability or the other. So they are creating that space and absorbing and adapting and accommodating children with special needs. That's one I am aware of in Abuja and some parts of Nigeria, but not in every part of Nigeria. I still have rejects from some schools that a parent will call me and say, this child was rejected by a school and we'll have to write letters to them. Yes, I've had to write letters to school. And there are some schools that the benchmark is really high and they don't want children with special needs. I know schools that tells me, Laura, we are not absorbing any child with special needs in their school. So it's not an inclusive setting. They already know what they are setting up. So that school is a no-no for a child with special needs. So we are advocating for an extensive inclusion where a mainstream inclusion, where every school set up will have a special needs children in their school, or will have special needs children accommodated in their school, and with the right support, with training for the teachers, with the rights, that will filter through their lesson plan to their teaching methodology, and everybody in the school is aware that, yes, we have people with difference in our school, and we are here to embrace and to make their life also a good journey for them.
All right, quick one. It's a hold on, quick one. I'm just going to take another question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
She said something quite important. Said, how equipped are some of these schools that are equipped to take in special need kids? And what are some of the arrangements they've got with parents struggling with kids with special need? Also, are there these schools? Where are they? Is there anyone that you know of? The question is from Anna's Nation. So are there any schools? And if these schools are there, how equipped are they? What sort of arrangement they've got to support these parents that are struggling with special needs? So if you know anyone, please throw their name out there, please.
Okay. All right. I will do that, and I will do it so covertly because I work with a number of schools, and if I don't remember one school off my head now, there would be, that would be unfair. So yes, the arrangements are made in many of these schools. They have special needs teachers working with these children, because we say we practice inclusion. So we frown against the child being taken out of the classroom when teaching and learning is taking place. So inclusion means everything the child needs will be given and administered and supported inside the classroom, with that child being around his own peers, learning alongside with their peers. So yes, there are many schools like that in Abuja. I work in Abuja, so yes, I'm aware of that. And the person can contact me. I'll send some of the list of the schools in Abuja to them. So apart from that, we have catch-up sessions where the special needs teacher will break their work into segments and the children are able to learn according to their own pace. We have resources. These are resources that are, some of them are locally found, and some of them are internationally brought down to Nigeria. And yes, these children are also availing of them. And apart from that, there are designated rooms that for sensory stimulation and for children to calm down in the sensory rooms. Yes, so a lot of the schools that I am working with, they have such facility provided, because my team and myself, that we set up such environment for them, and we do it, and it's international standards and it's best practice.
Okay, yeah. I hold on, Israel. I've got this question from she had just asked. This is very painful. How do you handle emotional burnout from your parents? From your parents that is struggling with child with ADHD? That's one question. Now I've got a question. That is very touching. That came in from your live stream. Now I've got another question. How do you advise a parent who is feeling bad or is feeling ashamed, thinking that they are the reason why the child has got Down syndrome? How do you advise those parents? Now I want you to tackle the first question, which is one of our viewers just asked in live stream. How do you handle emotional burnout from the parent who is the primary caregiver? So,
thank you.
I think the question: what do you say to a parent who feels guilty or who feels ashamed over the fact that the child has been diagnosed being struggling with one or two special needs? Attend to that from the live stream for them. You can respond to me.
So
Anna, thank you, by the way.
Parents, the parents with emotional Okay, should I go ahead?
Yeah.
So that for that parent, first of all, I'll give my listening ears. Most of the time, what people are deprived of is somebody to speak with. Once you have someone to speak with who can empathize with you, who can listen to you, who you know that you have, you can rest your head on their shoulder. That's the journey has started. That's the beginning of healing. And the thing is that don't bottle in any of this situation. You need to have the right support. You know, I keep talking about network. Networking is key, where you have people you can talk with, your family members are there, and you can also talk to specialists in the field. Some of them, they have their consultation period. For instance, in the different schools I work, I have days that I'm in a particular school. At my door, I operate an open door policy. And I tell the parent, I'm always there. So let's come together. Let's talk about this thing. And let me give you strategies also so that you can work with your child so effortlessly and seamlessly. Because see, when you have the hand of another person and the person can open up to you, that's when the healing journey starts. But when you think I'm the only one bearing it, I'm the only one in these shoes, then you just feel you are fixated on that problem. The problem can be sorted when you voice out, and possibly that parent also needs therapies, and the right places to go for therapies are also there, that we can look through it, and then we'll send such parents to have such therapies. The parents should know that you don't have a control over what goes on in the womb. Yeah. You don't. So most of the time we say that is the maternal age that could have caused a child to come out as having Down syndrome. But sometimes I've seen a parent who was 30, in her mid-30s and still had a child with Down syndrome. So what can you say about that? But scientifically proven. So one thing you should know is that your biological age start clicking from the day that you start your period too. So it's not only your physical age that will culminate to that. So most of the time, parents will tend to think that, oh, I'm 40. I've seen people who are 40s and had children, or even late 40s, they had children, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with their children.
So you're saying that your biological age starts with when you begin to see a period. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow. That's something new, isn't it?
I'm just learning today. I'm literally learning today.
So it's not necessarily by your age.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think that the biological clock starts from when they begin to click.
Because
when they get to 30, they begin to be worried, especially those who are not married. They begin to be worried that, oh, I'm already getting, really old, So they begin to think that the biological clock starts at 30. So that's a myth. Is that what you're saying?
Not entirely, but I can tell you that when you have your period, maybe somebody who had the period at the age of 10, 11, that's when you start producing your eggs.
Oh, yeah.
As against somebody who started their period at the age of 14. So if you add 20 to that person is just 34. But if you add the person who had their period at the age of 10 and 24, so there is a difference between that. And, at some stage, the number of eggs, they start depleting. Then you reach your pre-menopause, you reach menopause. Right. So you're advised to know that there is a period that that you have to start having your children. And some people freeze their eggs, knowing that, okay, I do not have a partner now, but I still want to be the biological mother of my child. Yeah. So those are some of the things that people should put into consideration. Wow. So coming back to the parent who is guilty about the fact that she has a child with Down syndrome. There is nothing to be ashamed of. I've seen children with Down syndrome who are thriving, who are contributing at large to the society, who are, who are productive and who are doing very well. Back home in Ireland, I've seen people, persons with disabilities doing 5 to 9 jobs, and they're functional. So don't give up. Children are being supported. There are so many schools now, both in Abuja and also in Lagos that I know of, that are supporting children with Down syndrome. And the children are doing well. These things are kind of, they're in different level. How well do you want your child to be? Is it to function well, to be independent, or to be academically sound? Because sometimes if you find out from some parent, is because, my child is not able to do physics, is not going to eventually become a doctor. But what if this person is going to be a fashion designer, or is going to be a musician, is going to be an art, is artistic and is going to be a professional artist or something like that? Because at the end of the day, you have to know what you want for your child. And you see, the sky is the limit for, we know people who do not even have any disabilities, and yet they are not doing as good as some people with who has disabilities.
Wow.
Now, I will just dive in here quickly. I've got tons of questions from the live stream, but also I want to ask a question. I'm telling you, you will be shocked. Let me read one of the comments from live stream. Some organizations in Nigeria are careless about the special needs. Why is the government not putting the people with disability into considerable position? People with disability are being treated unfairly, unlike a second-class citizen. That's a comment. What do you have to say about that? And I'm not saying you're the one making the laws, but what do you have to say about that? What's your take?
We just have to educate the government. We have those people in our midst, and they will always be in our midst. There is no way, I tell people, there is no way we will do without people with disability in our society. So the earlier we brace up, the earlier we start doing the right thing, putting the right infrastructures in place, making sure that the advocacy is there for them, and creating the awareness as much as possible and educating people as much as possible, the earlier the better. We will have those people, and we have to make sure that those people become independent and functional individuals in our society.
I need to ask her 2 questions that just come up. How can parents advocate for their child without feeling as if they are being difficult in schools? How can parents advocate for their children in schools in Nigeria without feeling as if they are being difficult? Yes, that's one. Secondly, what should the teacher know or do that they don't do at the minute?
Okay, thank you very much. Parents need to know the right school to go to, first of all, because not all schools will be suitable for your children. Yeah. Not all schools also practice inclusion the right way. Yeah. So get informed, ask from experts in the field, what right school what is the right school for my child to be? I'm always getting messages from parents asking me, Mrs. Laura, I live in this locality, which of the school is best for my child? And I tell them, because some schools just have these children with special needs just to populate their size. And they will tell you they do X, Y, Z, and they are not doing it. So go be well informed and have the right knowledge before you register your child and enroll your child into any school. The second question you asked.
The second question.
What was the second question? Has that answered your question?
That was one of them. Second one was, how should the parents advocate for their children in schools without feeling as if they're difficult? That was the first one. The second one is, what should the teacher know or do that they are not doing at the moment?
For teachers, they also have to undergo trainings, trainings on how to work with children in their classrooms, because some children who are neurological who are neurodivergent, some children who are neurodivergent some mainstream teachers may not be able to cope with them without the support of a special needs teacher working with that child or therapist working with that child. So, and in a classroom environment, the classroom teacher needs to know that I am responsible for that child in my classroom. So there must be a synergy between the classroom teacher and the special needs teacher, that each one of them needs to build together and work together for the betterment of that child. So going back to your question, that teacher needs to be well informed through training and a lot of empowerment, a lot of trainings and implementation. So it's not just training, you also have to implement whatever you have learned and gained from the trainings. So the school, the stakeholders of each of the schools needs to know that, yes, it is crucial that we train all our teachers so that they know how to work with persons with disability and neurodivergent learners. So that's one. For the parents who feels that becoming a burden to the school? No, you're not. Parents need to know that I am responsible for my child. I'm responsible for my child's emotion, my child emotional needs, my child's intellectual needs. I'm responsible for everything that child cannot advocate for themselves at that stage. Yeah. So you need to stand in, and standing in a very polite and positive way, because at the end of the day, you are not the owner of the school. That's why I said gaining information about the right school, because if you go to the right school, they will be readily happy to support you. But if you go to the wrong school, it will be as though you are just you are sending, you are telling them what to do, and they are not just aware of it. But if the schools are aware, they are well equipped, they will even be the one to educate you and tell you that these are the program we have set for your child. These are the resources we have set for your child. So like I said earlier on, the right school will give the right, the best result, and you will have best practice in such schools.
Okay. Yes. Before we move to the big farmer, I've got another question that's just come up. Now this is double bar. There's one that just asked, is there any education for parents with kids that's got special needs? That's our first question. Yes? Secondly, how many of you are out there in Nigeria right now? And how many, I want to try and put it in the nicest way. Are you training people and then hiring them to schools? Because that's the question. That's the question. Are you training people and hiring them to school? The first one was, how many of you are out there? Second one was, is there any education for parents with kids that's got special needs? First one, how many of you are out there? What are they training for parents with kids that's got special needs? And how many of you are out there? And are you training people? Yes, are you training people and hiring them to schools? Please.
Good. Thank you very much.
It's an educator. The person that asked that question is an educator. So go on, please. Let's hear you.
So I own an organization, Horizon Educational Consultancy Services.
Wow. Absolutely.
So in that organization, in the course of my years in Nigeria, I've been able to train thousands of teachers. And, I will say that I train almost every week. And I train both mainstream teachers and special needs teachers. How many of us are out there? I know I'm out there. I know that there are very few of us that are out there, not so many. And yes, but are we out there? That's the major thing, is that are there people who are involved with persons with disabilities? Yes, we are out there, but they're very, very few. So, and most of the time you see people like myself that are doing it. It's either maybe the person has a child with special needs. I don't have a child with special needs. It's passion. It's my own calling that has brought me into the field. And yes, I'm out there, and so many other persons are out there, but they're not as many as it should be. So I train, and I have tons of I don't have tons of teachers. I have teachers who I train and who works in the different schools. So yes, in my organization, I have teachers that I have trained, and they work in the different schools who are availing of our services in Horizon.
There's an ongoing conversation. I know you will have a follow-up question on that, but let me lead that. There's an ongoing conversation that implicates vaccines in children, with autism. And central to the heart of this conversation is the Make America Healthy Again, championed by R.F. Kennedy, who is the Secretary of Health in the United States. What's your take on that? How has vaccines impacted the lives of children?
Okay, because this is a very delicate question, and I will always talk with facts. If there are no facts and evidence, I will not support it. So I will say that for me, based on study, I doubt it if any of this disability was being caused by the vaccine. But one thing is that vaccine may trigger an underlying problem. So if something is already there, and these are hidden disabilities that manifest with time, because you will see your child having one word, responding to their needs, and all of a sudden, after a certain stage, they start losing it. You notice that the child that was initially saying mama, papa, couldn't say it again. And those are the things that would tell you that this child had autism. Or the child that was walking well initially and started tiptoeing, or now putting toys in a straight line, or has no speech, or has limited speech, or is echolalic, echoing what people say to them. So this behavior manifests with time. So going back to the vaccine one, behaviors that are not fully blown, they have not really manifested completely. Okay. Something could trigger it. I will say I had the last, when we had COVID-19, I took the first one and the second jab. And that night I was all feverish. I was unwell. By the next day I was okay. Yes, that's a manifestation of the incubation I had, the immunization I had for COVID. So not incubation, I beg your pardon, that I had. But that doesn't mean that I have COVID, because they will introduce the same gene into you, and so that your body will build the antibodies, the antigen was introduced, and then your body will fight it. Yes, that's what vaccine does to the system. But to say that vaccine is the cause of autism, is the cause of this, how come that some children take the same vaccine and they don't have it? So if the statistics has proven that 500 children in a particular locality or in a demographic, they took this vaccine and they all had autism. Yes, will clap and say, yes, we will tie it to that particular vaccine, but not in all cases. Because you know that everybody is also gaining the awareness of what autism is. Some people will think autism is even ADHD. Some people will think ADHD is when a child has OCD. Well, some people will think autism is when a child has some sensory processing disorders. So there are difference in all these disabilities. They differ from one to another, and people kind of interchange them from time to time. Okay,
right. I'm not a big fan of Trump like Israel. Why? I can settle.
What?
A big fan of like Israel is. But I can tell you that I like the work that Trump is doing with the big farmers and through JF. I like the work he's doing with the big farmers. Now, you said the vaccine is not automatically, there's no proof that it's linked, right? Now, I'm going to have a follow-up question for that. Is it really needed? Is vaccine really needed? And have there been the research? Has this vaccine been tested to say, yes, this is what they actually do? Have they done any sort of test? Because from what I'm reading, from what I can see, some of us didn't take vaccine when we were growing up. And we're still well and living well today. Some people didn't take the COVID vaccine and they didn't catch COVID for one day. Yes? So what the question is, for parents who are towing the path of, I don't want my child to be vaccinated, please, is vaccine needed? Or is just another money-making scheme for the big family?
Well, I will say from my own experience too, my mother had polio as a child. And if she had had polio vaccine, possibly she may not have had it. I vaccinated all my children, different stages. You have the MRM, measles, rubella, and meningitis. When you vaccinate a child, you are limiting their exposure to different forms of diseases that is out there. And if you choose not to vaccinate your child, then you should also put your child in an incubator where your child will not mix in the environment and will not be prone to any diseases or any situation out there. So the reason why you vaccinate a child is because you want the child's immune system to be ready to fight against this, the disease when they come across it. We've all seen times when we had chicken pox or smallpox. There is vaccination for smallpox. And I know that they are also pumping money for malaria vaccination and vaccines. So at the end of the day, it's like I would say to you, it's also personal. It depends on an individual to choose if you want to have your child vaccinated or not. Because for me, I will rather, because your children they are going to mingle with other children. And you don't know if a child is a carrier of XYZ. You don't know. So, and that's the reason why you have a child to be vaccinated. But like I mentioned earlier on, I will say that vaccination will not be, it's not totally proven, and there are no key evidences and facts out there that a particular vaccination aided this kind of difficulty or disability in a child.
Okay. For the purpose of today, I'm not going to dive into a lot of things, but we're going to have to bring you back again. But let me ask this question. What would you say to an American lawyer who wrote something very touching? He said, I protect, I defend people for a living. That's what I do for a living. My job is to defend my clients. But I can look at my son in his eyes and I couldn't defend him. A child, I took him to the hospital by myself to go and take an injection. Before I took the child in, we were talking, we were interacting, we were playing, and we were having all sorts. But since the day I brought that child home from having taken the vaccine, the child refused to communicate. All the child is doing is like the child is trapped inside his body. He's now trapped. Now, one of the reasons I'm saying this, that's why I said we're going to have to bring you back. I'm pleading. We're going to have to bring you back because this topic, there's a lot to unpack about it. Yes, I live in the Western world as well. And when I go and visit some of my friends, what I'm seeing, I'm not happy with it. You see these kids struggling, literally struggling. A lot of them, they want to say things, but they can't say it. And they're just busy humming everywhere. And you can see that these children want to interact, they want to engage. And some of them, you can see the rage inside of them. They are bouncing off the wall. Now, a lot of people have linked this to the vaccine that they've been given. Now, how can you educate us on that? And I know you're going to try and toe a very fine line here because you wouldn't want to agree. You're going to be political because obviously it's your profession, and I understand that. But those who are looking to jackpot from Nigeria to the UK, and those who are already jackpot, it's time for you to listen. Once you go and give birth to a child in the hospital, you can't walk away with that child because in Nigeria you can walk away and say, I don't want it. For those of you who are now living in the UK, or for those of you who are about to come into the UK, Madam, Oga, you cannot walk away from that hospital without vaccinating the child. In fact, they will collect the gift for your hand. Yes? So, I don't want to be, I said to this, I don't want to be emotional. I just want to talk peacefully so that we can wrap up this. How do you advise those parents that the reason why that child who were communicating before when you gave birth to them, and after they've taken their first dose, the second dose, the third dose, the child is now misbehaving. And the child which you brought from Nigeria that didn't take vaccine is perfectly fine. How do you educate these people? Because I know a lot of people who probably have their first kids, their first child in Nigeria, and they bring the child in along with them, and now they've given birth to two here. And they're not struggling with such a child with special needs. Take us home with it. Thank you.
So I'm not going to sit on the edge, but at the same time, I'll still strongly say that it's not in all cases. And it's so touching to hear that initially the particular child were thriving, and shortly after the vaccination, the child regressed. There are times that we may not know that. We're not aware that there have been underlying manifestation of behavioral situation in our children. For instance, many years back, if somebody doesn't have speech, we will say the person is deaf and dumb, or the child is just a dullard. But now we have a name. Back in my time, we didn't know that it was autism, it was dyslexia, it was dyscalculia, it was general learning difficulties. But awareness has created that. So with this vaccine too, if there are no facts, and it's just one family there, two families there, and I know maybe quite a number of people whose child began to regress, they came together and said it's the vaccine. Other people too took it. Why not? What happened to those that took it and their children did not manifest such behaviors? That's where, that's why it's highly controversial for us. And it's not one heart fit all. And whilst you're saying this, what came to mind is that possibly there had been other things that we just didn't pay attention to. And this immunization triggered it. And, like I mentioned when I had the COVID, it's made me to be very unwell, but I became well a day after. But, my body is not the body of an infant. It could be a reaction. It could be the reactions in such children that now prolonged and now made it to be full-blown underlying problem that was there to now manifest completely.
Okay. I heard of a family, right? A family in Canada. And the child began to manifest a certain behavior that linked him to autism. And it was recommended that the child left Canada back to Nigeria. And when the child came back to Nigeria, the child became normal. What's your explanation to that?
You see, we are talking about a population. We are not talking about one person. Those are trickles. And was the child fully assessed, fully diagnosed with autism? When the child came to Nigeria, what happened? Was the child fully supported? Maybe the therapies that the child was availing worked for him better in Nigeria. Maybe the child had the right support. So, we need to...
Does that explain when you said that there are different factors that could lead to, or that could trigger some of these special needs, disabilities in children? So could it be that the environment where he was, maybe Canada, was what triggered that?
The food.
Explain that light. The
food, their diet,
the drugs,
the diet, their food, their environmental factors such as maybe exposure to toxins. Their environmental
made from the lab. So now this is the reason why I tell my sisters and my brothers who you're looking to leave a country. I know the country is not doing well, but remember, you're going to a country where things are organized. So you have little or no control. Yes, you have little or no control over what happens to your child. Even this kind of education the child is given, you have little or no control over it. So remember the issue of kids with disability. In as much as it's not that much reported in Nigeria, we don't have that. There's no statistical numbers to back it up. The number is still very, very low.
We have 35.1 million.
Yeah, but those figures can be inflated.
Yeah.
Yes, those figures can be inflated by the government agencies who just want to get money. I can look down on my immediate siblings, their children. We don't have anyone in my family. Yes? So where did they get 35 million from? Is there a permanent secretary somewhere, a minister somewhere that just want to get money? So this is a topic that we need to continuously sit on and address. Anyway, I'll let Israel take it away.
Okay. Now, thank God for technology. We begin to see the rise in technology, and even if I have to bring in the scripture, the Bible, being a Christian, but say in the end times, technology will increase, and of course we're seeing, technology is on a fast pace, and sometimes we feel lost. We have the AIs and all of that. Now, I want to bring it back to technology. There is a neurochip being invented by Elon Musk. Of course, Elon Musk is the richest man, one of the greatest inventors in mankind. And this neurochip is said it's been implanted in the brain or in the arms. And this has helped. I think that there's a test, and I think in 2024, I think the company announced that the test was successful. And of course, helped some of these people with this kind of disabilities. Now, my question is, Nigeria, and of course, we have a large population of religious folks, and people who also would say that that this is a sign of the beast. That's when you'll be asked to put something on your forehead, or you'll be asked to put something on your right hand. That this is a representation of the end of times, and a representation of what is popularly known as in the Bible among Christendom as the 666. Now, do you advise people to avail themselves of these technologies that can help advance human race and humanity? Especially in this case of special needs, because of course this chip is focused on people with disabilities.
Like I will always say, it's also personal, because you don't know how long has this been in implementation. We need to know the longevity of this thing, because at the end of the day, the same thing with this vaccination that we are saying could later on, people will say it was when they inserted the chip, my child was doing well initially, and then after some time, the child later regressed. So I will still say that, let everybody know what they want to do. As far as I'm concerned, it's a subjective thing, and you as an individual or as a parent, you can say you make the decision.
Yeah, yourself. But did you subscribe to those religious fanatics who would say that because they see this as a representation of the sign of the beast 666? So do you subscribe to those kind of opinions?
So far, I see that the chip does not have 666 on it. the chip that has the number 666, I will not take that one. But I will say that yes, whether we like it or not, it's this 666 thing is evolving one way or the other, and technology is going to be the one that will actually propagate it.
So can autism make one Elon Musk? Right, he has a spectrum of autism. Is every child who has this kind of spectrum or has this kind of special needs, does it make them to be genius?
So we have, like I said, it's a spectrum. Some are high functioning and they become those are the savants. Not all high functioning individuals are savants in that society, and they have particular traits that makes them to function in like superheroes, and they have abilities that are way higher than every other person. Their IQ is different from normal. Okay. So, and then we have some that are low functioning. So it's a spectrum. So it's not in all cases that persons with autism or disability will have one special ability or the other.
Okay, let me make a quick submission. Based on what you just said now, I have somebody which usually knows very well, and I'm going to make a submission. She's a lady, she's got special needs, and she's a family friend to me. She's into fashion designing. She lives in Port Harcourt. As I'm just saying it now, she understands who I'm talking about. She knows I'm talking about her. And she's doing absolutely well in fashion design. She's crushing it in Port Harcourt. She's one of the famous fashion designers in Port Harcourt. She can barely speak. This is now more than stammering. You know, when people talk and stammer. Or she can barely put a speech together. Yes, but she's doing well in fashion design. Absolutely well. Yes, thank God she's married. She has an amazing husband as well. I know her husband. So glory to God on that. Now, my first question is, how do you advise parents? Because you said there are some of them with high spectrum or some of them with low spectrum. Yes? How do you advise parents to say, hey, just to sort of give them some sort of hope to say it's not all bad news. This one might got autism, but it's a high spectrum. You are expecting to have an Elon Musk in your hand. Yes. So how do you advise parents? Then when you finish that, I want to take us to the church, back to church again. Because I've got a question to ask you there. Please, take it away.
Okay.
So, not in all cases you have persons with disabilities having that special abilities. But the ones that do not have the special abilities should equally be supported and tapping into their strength. And, when you know their strength, you begin to use that strength to build them. You use that strength to work on every areas of their lives. So, for instance, a child may like a particular thing. Use that thing to as an incentive to teach the child. So, people with disabilities or neurodivergent individuals, not all of them will become heroes and have special abilities like each and every one of us. So that's your Port Harcourt cousin who is a fashion designer. Is just one of those persons with super ability, and maybe they knew in good time and tapped into that. Yes. And likewise, I've come across a number of children who will have abilities in drawing, artistic abilities, and they are thriving. And we've had some who are musical, and the parents will put a lot of effort into whatever they are good at. So hope is never lost for any child. Getting the right support, getting the right intervention, having the children assessed at the right time is crucial. And also knowing that assessment will create access and not labeling at the end of the day, So, because that's what a lot of parents run away from. They don't want their children to be assessed so that they won't be labeled. But at the end of the day, when you assess these children, they have access to what they will need, and they will gain the right support they require at an early stage.
Now, we live in a country where everything is all about, I'm going to meet my pastor. A child have headache, I'm going to meet my pastor. A child is not talking properly, I'm taking a child to the pastor. Now we have the Celestial Church where a child is not talking well, they just bring a child and flog the child, flog, till the child passes out. Now, how do you educate people like that to say, a child can have special needs. It's okay for the child to have a special need. It's not all about flogging. Everything is not about miracle and prayers. How do you help this set of people to let them know it is not what you need to go and meet your pastor for? You just need to be diagnosed so that the child can have access to what the child needs. Please, take it away.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So there is a place for prayers, which I will not rule out, but there is a place for the parents to know that you have to give the right support to your child. So early intervention is key. Don't run away don't be in denial, because once you are in denial, you will think that prayer is what will take it out from the child. Prayer has its own place, but the first thing is that if you have a headache, some people will pray about it and it will go. If it persists and it doesn't go, won't you go to the hospital and have yourself checked on? So you should So you should, if you fast while you have headache, you have much more headache. So, and that's where specialists come into play. God has endowed specialists as well as the knowledge they acquired in education, in their educational field, so that they can put the right support, the right strategies to help individuals with special needs and and so on. So just go for the right
help,
support, assistance that you will require, and don't be in denial. Pastor will pray and support you while you go for the right thing to do for your child, because time is of the essence. Most of these disabilities can be helped at an early stage. And I'm an advocate of a stitch in time saves nine. When you do the right thing, the child can be supported in good time. But if you wait, you are just, you are making the thing to be prolonged, and there will be more support the child will require much later. Why don't you do the needful at the right time? I've seen situations like that when a child is not helped on they are even past. I've had to assess children who are in their late teens. And what was the parent doing when they were still infants, when they were still toddlers? What were they doing? So I'm also a believer, but I also know that go for the right thing that your child will require. Meet the right personnel that will help your child right now. Don't wait until later.
No, I just want to take a minute to read these two messages from two of our viewers. And now the first one is a mom of a son. Her name is Amanda. She said, "Hi, my name is Amanda. I'm a single mom of a beautiful 6-year-old boy. His name is Liam, who was born with Down syndrome and recently diagnosed with ADHD. Some days it feels like I am failing him. I am exhausted, I am overwhelmed, and unsure if I am doing anything right. Schools has been a huge challenge, and I often get calls about his behavior or attention span. He is so full of love and light, but the world doesn't seem to understand him. And sometimes I am afraid I don't understand him. How can I better support him emotionally while also making sure I take care of myself? And I just want to raise him with dignity and strength, but some days I feel like I am drowning." That's mother number one. Now the second person, which is the last one. "I don't even know how to put this into words without crying. I am a mother of an 8-year-old girl, my sunshine, my warrior. She has Down syndrome and ADHD. And every single day is a storm and a miracle, wrapped in one. I love her more than life, but the truth is I am tired, absolutely tired. Not just tired, I am broken. Sometimes we fight, God, we fight. Not in anger, but in pain. She screams and throws things because her word feels too loud. I cry in the kitchen because I don't want her to know that I'm crying." I cannot help her regularly because of my tears and the emotion that comes in, or even to explain why she can't attend birthday of like other kids. She looks at me and those big eyes like I am supposed to have answers to the reason why she's not allowed to attend other kids' birthday. Some days she clings to me and tells me I am a hero. Other days she pushes me away with all her strength and tells me I am mean to her for not letting her eat candy or for breakfast. And I try not to take it personal, but my heart shatters in pieces. What's hardest is watching the world treat her like she is less, teachers who calls her too much, kids who stare at her, other moms who don't invite us anymore to birthday parties. I feel like we are living in a bubble. No one wants to come near us. She is magic. She is brilliant in her own way. She remembers songs after hearing them for the first time. She feels everything with her full soul. You can't, the world can't see it. Lastly, I just want one day where I don't have to explain or defend her. One day where I can breathe and feel like I am not failing her. I love my daughter with every breath I have. I just wish loving her didn't feel so good. What do you have to say to this?
So I think what she will say with the question I'm going to ask will then wrap up what these people have. I mean, these comments. It's really heart touching. And I hope this will give answers. You know, you've likely witnessed incredible breakthroughs in your work. Mm-hmm. Now, could you share a story of a client's progress that surprised or deeply moved you? And what it taught you about resilience or the potential for growth? Now, these people who have sent in their messages, we can hear the pain from the heart. Maybe a story you're going to share with us about someone's progress or growth could be that thing that will inspire them and make them not to give up and continue to aspire for growth and progress in the child's self.
I'm really touched by the two parents, and each one of them echoed each other's situation and pain.
Yeah.
And just know that there are people out there that want to listen to you. And there are people out there that empathize with you. There are people out there that will give your child or children the right support. And that's why someone like me left my children and my husband and left them miles and thousands miles away. And I'm working in Nigeria to support children who require my need. And these are children with special needs. And I'm happy to do that. And that's because my husband and my children are my strength. And they tell me, Mommy, you are here, you are in Nigeria because they need you more. So I want you to look into my eyes right now and know that there are people out there that are more than happy to support you, and you're never alone. You're not the only one going through this. You're not the only mother that is going through this. Your child may not, some children, it may not even be that a child has one disability or the other, but it might be something else. So it's a journey in life, and I want you to brace up and to be that strength for your child, and as well as have strong network around you. You need support network. You cannot do it alone. You need people who will be there to support you. You need good friends around you. You need families around you. And you need to speak out. Don't bottle in anything so that you don't also have emotional breakdown or mental health issues. So the more you speak out about this thing and the more you let people know, yes, I have a child with Down syndrome and I need the help, people will be more than willing to help you. One thing that crushes people most of the time is when we think that, oh, we don't want anybody to know. There are parties that your child will go to and they will open their doors to you. I remember back home when my children were still toddlers. My youngest is 20 years old. So, and I will open my door to my friends who have children with autism. I'm sure one of them is watching me right now. And those children want to play differently, and we will play with them differently. And that time I was not even fully immersed in what I'm doing and embedded in what I'm doing now. So it's not all parties that will call, or all situations that will close their doors at you, but you voice out and don't bottle in things. To wrap up, yes, I've had success stories. How many do you want me to say? I know children who started with me, with us. You know, when I say with me, I meant my team and myself, that this particular child had autism, and and he couldn't write, he couldn't do much. And after a couple of years, with intervention and the support we gave him and strategies, this child competed in the school with the spelling bee, and he won. Wow. He did very well. He surpassed everybody in the school. Wow. I have known children who had dyslexia, and we put them with the right support. The children are no longer availing of our support because they are thriving and they are doing well. Wow. And they know it's not like, oh, the child started scoring 60%, 90, 99, with the right support. Some children with autism and with ADHD, with the right support, you see that those children are calmer and they know that, okay, they follow the school routine and they are thriving very well. Mm. So, like I will say, yes, get the right support. Support is always out there. Yeah. Speak out, ask questions. We are online, I mentioned, Horizon Educational Consultancy Services.
We'll put your link on the YouTube.
Yes, for both Instagram and Facebook. And we have the websites too, that you can always just contact us, and we are always there to help and support. And it's not me alone. There are other organizations out there because it would be overwhelming for just myself alone to support all the children that we have, and some of them that are still just coming up. So there are other organizations too that are more than able to support you and to be there for you.
Yeah. Wow. So we I think we'll be wrapping up, but before we do, can you give something to our viewers, those who might want to contact you, who will want to, purchase a service? Can you give them a discount
for coming through our channel? If they say, "Yeah, how, Mom? We saw your podcast on Common Sense, and we are contacting you with this, and this is what we want to do." Is there any sort of special rates for them?
Yes, I'll give 30% reduction for them.
What?
Everybody that comes through Common Sense. Yes. So the first 10 persons, the first 10 persons, they will get 30% from our services.
First 10 people get 30% from their services.
So,
guys, I want to say something quickly, guys. I want to appreciate you for those of you who have stayed long to watch this podcast. I would say if this is a sort of content that you crave for, please subscribe. And if you find it interesting, please share it to your friends and family. And also, don't forget, leave a comment. We're going to be reading comments as well. We'll be reading comments and then we'll respond to. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the comment section. We'll take it to Mrs. Nora for her to
Mrs. Laura will be on our comment section also to be answering your questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sorted. Thanans for your time. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you.
Enjoy your vacation, right? Enjoy your vacation right in the sun in Portugal.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.